Welcome to the Sober Circle channel.
I'm going to bloody my nose on this microphone here, Lee. I don't believe I need that. My name is Robin Vernon. I'm a grateful Al-Anon. I'm going to immediately qualify myself by making a nest up here. Get everything just like I like it. Little Bert's bees. Lee said I had to be done in an hour and 45 minutes. I think I can cut it short. Well, let me say this. Thank you to Ben. I don't see him. Where's Ben? Ben, who called me and has been very gracious to get me here even a day early when God told me Thursday morning I was supposed to go on Thursday instead of Friday. Who knew? Sasha, who's been a great hostess. We had a meal together, and she's just like me. And you know what I say? Bless her heart. Woo! Woo! Bless her heart. God sends me people just like me no matter where it is. And I always bless their heart. The committee, thank you for the beautiful little tote bag with all, I'm telling you, those homemade chocolate-coated marshmallows are the bomb. You could have left everything else out and given me about 10 of those. But I am grateful for the Al-Anons doing the tote bags because Ben told me if he did them, it was going to be beef jerky for everybody. Now, I got nothing against beef jerky, but I like those chocolate-covered marshmallows. Okay, so before I get any trouble up here, there's a couple things I need to do. When Lois Wilson, the co-founder of Al-Anon, was asked what she did in the moment of silence before the meeting, she said she invited the God of her understanding. So I would like to have a moment of silence and ask each and every one of you to invite the God of your understanding. I'm less apt to get in trouble if we all pitch in on this. Very important. I am filling in for Rick J. And I would like to lift up some healing grace for him in that moment of silence as well. So a moment of silence, please. Amen. Okay, so my home group is the Help and Hope Al-Anon Family Group in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We study the steps, the traditions, and the concepts. Okay? I learned pretty early on from my first sponsor, who was a black belt Al-Anon, that the legacies, there's 3 of them. It's like a 3-legged stool. If I'm not studying all the way around, what happens? One leg of the stool gets a little shorter than the others, and I fall off and bust my So it's been good for me. It's been very, very good for me. They're my family of choice, honestly. You all, people I've never laid eyes on before, are my family of choice. You are the people. Strangers? No, there's no strangers in this room. You know more about me really on some level than my sisters know about me because they're not in recovery. Okay? So, well, I do have one, my baby sister. She just made 27 years. She doesn't go to program, but her life is good. She knows more about me than the other 2. But anyway, you're my family of choice. And I'll tell you one thing, here in Tennessee, y'all know how to do recovery. Okay? Y'all know how to do recovery. I've felt loved. I've heard a lot of laughter. Everybody, just the nicest group of people, and I'm very grateful for that. That's not always the case. It's not always the case. So my family of origin, I didn't have an alcoholic in my family of origin, okay? I come from a teetotaling Southern Baptist family, okay? And I'm going to throw this out there right now. Drinking is a sin. See, I knew some of you didn't know. Glad I could bring you into that awareness this morning. If you don't get anything else, now you know. However, as I came in Al-Anon and I began recovery, began to walk this path, you start noticing things and you start asking questions. I have multi-generations of terminal alcoholism on both sides of my family, all the way back. Terminal alcoholism. So I was affected by the disease of alcoholism through my mother and father, the family disease of alcoholism, at birth. At birth. I call it the isms of alcoholism, okay? Today, for me, that's an internal spiritual malady. Talks about it in your book. You know that. Internal spiritual malady. Never fit anywhere. Never fit anywhere. Always different. Never enough. But you would never know that by the facade that I kept up. Okay? I was very rebellious. If you told, this is a little bit like an alcoholic, I think. If you told me not to, anybody, didn't matter who. If you told me not to, I am immediately thinking about, wonder how I can get that done. If you tell me drinking is a sin, don't ever do it, I'm immediately figuring out how I'm going to do it. Okay? So it's just the way I've rolled all my life. I'm a little better with that today, but it still may, my first thought may still always be a sick thought. I want to tell you a little bit about the alcoholic that I married. Okay, I want to tell you about our first date because I think it kind of describes our relationship. I knew David through school. We had some classes together in junior high school. He asked me out on our first date when we were juniors in high school, and we went to a party just a couple, 3 miles down the road from my house. I thought we had a great time. We did have a great time. And then when it was time to go home, he scared me to death driving the 3 miles to my house. When we got in the driveway, I was quite happy to be there. And he said, "You want to do something tomorrow? You want to go out tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah." Okay. Perhaps a healthier individual not affected by the family disease of alcoholism would have said, "Grateful to be home alive. No, thank you, buddy." But that's not what I said. I said, "Sure." So the next day came time for him to pick me up. He stood me up on our second date. Yeah, bad move. Turns out he was in a blackout when he drove me home. He didn't know he had asked me out on the second date. So he called me later that afternoon. I guess he remembered enough to know we had a good time. He called me the next afternoon. I cussed him out and hung up on him. I was having none of that. 15 minutes later, doorbell rang. And there he stood. He said, "You want to go to Tanglewood?" I said, "Yeah, let's go." David Vernon and I fell in sick. We did not fall in love. We fell in sick. Okay? But we learned to love one another. He was my soulmate, my husband, and he was the original alcoholic in my life. We were married at 23. Now, I want to tell you this. I did a lot of partying. David and I partied together. I did a lot of dancing with you all on the other side of the hall, and I am very grateful that I do not have the allergy. Very grateful. I don't know that I would have survived. I really don't. But I did my best to qualify with you all. I just don't, that dog, hair of the dog that bitches stuff, man, no, can't do it. So we were married at 23, and the party continued. We were separated the first time at 29. And what happened, he walked out on a job that he had worked years to get at R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company. He got a new job immediately. David was a white-collar alcoholic, just a very smart man, never missed any work. He was married to someone who had 20 jobs her first 18 years out of high school. And you know, some of them are still operating, doing it wrong. But I went into the bathroom, and he was drinking beer at 7 o'clock in the morning before the new job. And I had seen signs, you know, I'd been saying, let's just only drink on weekends. You know, let's only party on weekends. And he would say, okay, sure, no problem. And then, you know, he's picking a cooler up 2 doors up at Marty's house and dropping it off. He just never could not party like I could not party. So I kicked him out of the house and changed the locks. Okay, I didn't know the term detachment. I didn't know about release with love. He was the problem, and I got rid of it. Amputation. You know, I didn't know about detachment. It was amputation. I do not recommend that. So it was a few weeks later, he ran through all his friends, ended up with his family. He called me from treatment on his birthday and said, I am right where I need to be. And he invited me to come to Al-Anon. And I said, well, what is that? And he said, well, that is a recovery program for the families. And I said, what do they do there? And he said, well, they go to Al-Anon to recover like I go to AA to recover. And I said, recover what? I thought the only thing I had lost was a drunken husband, and I wasn't interested in recovering that. There was nothing wrong with me. He was the problem. Absolutely nothing wrong with me. Okay? No self-awareness at all. So he came into AA. He got sober. He became a member in good standing. He served. And you all know, you've seen it more than I have, I imagine. He was a different human being. He was a different man. And I really liked what I saw. So we reconciled and we bought a new home. And, you know, we have something in Al-Anon called the 3 C's. I did not cause it, I cannot control it, and I cannot cure it. Okay? And when I first heard that, I thought, well, I know that I can't control it and I can't cure it, but I never felt that I had caused it. But when I look back, when we moved in that new house, I thought, I'm going to keep this house cleaner. I'm going to cook dinner every night. We have a new walk-in closet. I have all my shoes lined up on a shelf. I have a new job. I don't know what number that was. New job. I make more money. And the subconscious thought after each one of those was, and he won't need to drink. And he won't need to drink. So on a subconscious level, yeah, it was all about me. It was all about me, okay? I did feel like I caused it and didn't even know it. Sue D., who is a longtime Al-Anon in Yorba Linda, California, talks about the little man that came and 12-stepped her husband to his first AA meeting. She's an Al-Anon like I was, okay? I was a rager. I was emotionally abusive. If I'd have been any bigger, I would have been physically abusive. And that little man turned around as he was taking her husband out to the car. He said, you are just as sick as he is. And he cannot stay sober coming home to an old idea. You need to go to Al-Anon. I had a 4th C. I didn't cause it, couldn't control it, couldn't cure it, but buddy, I knew how to contribute. And it was with my mouth and my attitude. My mouth and my attitude. And I remember clearly saying to him, why are you still going to those meetings? You hadn't had a drink in 5 years. Why are you still hanging out with those people? So ignorant about the disease. So very ignorant, because there was nothing wrong with me. He came home to an old idea for 7 years. He injured his back at work. I came home from work one day, and he was in a blackout. I had never even thought about it. I had never even thought about him picking up again. And that started about 2 years of the worst insanity that I have ever lived in. And I will tell you what, I was 95% of it. I was 95% of it. My disease kicked in on a level that I had no idea was possible. It was real insane. I want to qualify myself just a little bit. I did a lot of search and find. A lot of search and find. There was a duffel bag in the basement. It was David's duffel bag. I searched it at least once every day. He kept putting it there, whatever it was, okay? I would go down there, whether it was liquid, powder, whatever it was, pill form, it didn't matter. David identified as an alcoholic, and he was a textbook alcoholic, but he didn't mind recreating a little bit. I would, whatever it was, I would bring it up to him. I would say, gotcha. Don't you think for 1 second that you're getting anything over on me, buddy. And then I would try to make him tell the truth. Yeah, that may be the funniest part about all of it. And you know, how can you tell if an active alcoholic is lying? His lips are moving. But you know, today, I know that disease, that active disease, would not allow him to tell the truth. It will go to any lengths to protect itself. I've seen that. I've experienced that. He meant it when he said, honey, I'll go back to those meetings. I love you. I'll go back to those meetings. But that disease would not allow him to. He had a lot of prescriptions from his doctor, which was his mother's next door neighbor. And he put them all in an unmarked Tylenol bottle. And I don't know what the program was, but he was crazy as I had ever seen him. So I thought, I better talk to him, the doctor. So I called the doctor and I explained it to him. Look, David's got all these pills in an unmarked bottle. He's just taking all of them at once, or I don't know what he's taking, but he is crazy. And the doctor said, oh, thank you for calling. I will not be giving him any more prescriptions. And then it would be 3-4 days. Here's another bottle full of pills in the duffel bag. Well, call the doctor again. Pretty soon, you can imagine, the doctor didn't want to take my calls. So I remember very clearly writing him a letter. I'm going to explain it to him one more time. And you know, I imagine that the doctor was going, wow, no wonder David's having headaches. No wonder David's having a little trouble sleeping. And those muscle spasms. If I was married to her, I'd be depressed too. So I was crazy. And the last thing I think, which might be the sickest thing I did, I had already started, well, what I say, and my first black belt Al-Anon sponsor said, is Al-Anon is no less terminal than alcoholism. But Al-Anons get parts taken out. It's a teaspoon at a time that we lose ourselves in this family disease. So you don't even know it's happening. Okay? And so I had started having some physical symptoms. I was having some jaw pain. Went to the dentist. He checked my teeth. He said, your teeth look fine, Robin. Do you think you grind your teeth? And I was like, no, I don't grind my teeth. So my ear's hurting. I go to my family physician. He said, your ears look okay today, Robin. Do you think you grind your teeth? No. I don't grind my teeth. Back to the dentist, x-rays, panoramic, anything they can give you. Got to figure this thing out. He said, Robin, I'm telling you, no problem with your teeth. Are you sure that you don't? I do not grind my teeth. And I'm walking around like a tightly wound clock spring. Boom. I remember being ready to pull a young girl across the counter at Taco Bell. I was going to beat her to death over a burrito. Can't compartmentalize that kind of rage. It just spills over on everybody. So, my family doctor thought it'd be a good idea to give me some Klonopin. Yeah, but see, there was nothing wrong with me. So what I did with the Klonopin, I thought this was brilliant when I did it, was I put the bottle of Klonopin in the medicine cabinet beside David's shaving cream. So he had to see it every day. And I counted it every morning and every night to be sure he wasn't taking it. Yep. Some of us are sicker than others, and I am some of that some. So, on December 29th of 1992, the only reason I know the date is because of my daddy's birthday. I had a moment of clarity. I don't know how it happened. I didn't plan on having it. Certainly didn't pray about it. I did not have a God of my understanding. I heard David downstairs in the basement. He was in a 30-gallon trash can. But he was not in the trash over here. He was in the bird seed back in the back of the basement. And I knew he wasn't feeding the birds at 6 a.m. But I didn't go down and search. He passed out on the couch that afternoon. I went down to the bird seed, lifted the lid, and there were a lot of little vodka bottles, empty vodka bottles in there. I came upstairs. I sat down across the living room from him, and I very quietly said his name to wake him. In the past, if I had found something in the duffel bag or the golf bag or the bird seat at 3 o'clock in the morning and David was asleep in our bed, trust me, I was coming up those steps in a very loud and mean way, and I didn't know where he was sleeping that night, but I could sure tell you where he wasn't sleeping. And that was in our bed. I just had no control over what happened. I would, with my disease, if I have a slip, I lose my mental and emotional sobriety. And I was full of anger, rage, and resentment. I held that bottle up and I said, Dave, I can't live like this anymore. If you want help, I'll support you. If you don't, then you need to go. And he made the decision to go into an outpatient treatment program. Now, I went to the family program, okay? I want to be really clear on why I went. I went, first of all, to be sure he went. And second of all, I went to be sure he heard what he needed to hear. And I told him what that was all the way home every night from the meetings. And as soon as I got through telling him what it was he should have heard that night, I would talk about him and them, the others. They'd put us all, the patients and the family members, in the same room for 4 hours. Oh, yeah, it was awful. I mean, they were a sick bunch. Nothing wrong with me. It didn't dawn on me I'm there for the same reason they are. But anyway, I would say, God, did you hear what she said? Did you hear what he thought? Did you hear what they did? Talking about him and them all the way home. Third night we were there. They'd given us these notebooks. The counselor's sitting right in front of me. He says, turn page 47 in your notebook. Well, I very promptly and perfectly turned to page 47 in my notebook. And I looked over, and David appeared to be struggling. So I just reached over and helped get his notebooks to page 47. And like he'd forgotten his numbers or something. David was way smarter than me. Anyway, I looked up, and that counselor was looking at me. And I knew when I saw that look on his face that is the look that I had on my face talking about him and them on the way home. Ooh, you're a sick one. You're a sick one. And my mind opened just a crack. Just a crack. And just a shaft of self-awareness came in. And I thought, I don't think I'm okay. Coincidence that they loaded us in a van and took me to my first Al-Anon meeting that night? I think not. I think not. A God I didn't even know doing for me what I could not do for myself. And for me, I came home. I came home. I fit there like I had never fit anywhere in my 36 years of life. Anywhere. There were people in there talking about my secrets. The secrets I'd been keeping for years. You all know what I'm talking about. I came home and I immediately wanted what they had. So I began to ask questions. And they said the more meetings you go to, the quicker you're going to feel better. They said, get a sponsor. I said, what's a sponsor? They said, that's somebody that can walk with you through the steps, that has a sponsor, that has walked with them through the steps. And I immediately started to follow what my first Black Belt Al-Anon sponsor called good, orderly direction. I did not have a faith, even though I was raised in a Southern Baptist church, forced to go till, if the doors were open, I had to be there till I was 18 years old. And I told my mom, I'm not going to church anymore. Don't wake me up. If you want me to move out, I will. I did not find a God there. That's on me, not on that church. Good orderly direction. My sponsor knew. She knew me, and today I understand. She knew more about me the first time she laid eyes on me than I knew about me when I walked in Al-Anon, because I was just like her. And so we started following good orderly direction. And I will never forget the first suggestion she made to me. They don't tell you what to do, but they can make some pretty strong suggestions. She said, Robin, it would be a good idea if you didn't say anything to David that was judging, accusing, or blaming. I was willing to go to any lengths, jab. Is it judging, accusing, or blaming? I went home, I held everything up to that before it came out of my mouth. Is it judging, accusing, or blaming? All communication on my part ceased. I do not exaggerate. My next big awareness was that everything I'd said to that man for years was judging him for something, accusing him of something, or blaming him for something. My thinking was so distorted, I thought everything that was wrong in my world was David's fault. That's it. And that was far from the truth. So I go back to my sponsor. I said, we've got a communication problem at the house. What can I say? Let's approach it from that angle. And she said, you can say it if it's loving, true, and necessary. But it has to be all three. Well, I could get true and necessary, you bet. Could not pull off loving. No. I had a murderous heart. I'm serious. I did not want to be married. I did not want to be with this man. I just had not done my work. I had not done my work. It takes work. You heard in our traditions, our singleness of purpose is helping families of other alcoholics. The first thing it tells you how we do it, by working the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. okay? And my work had begun, but I wasn't way into it. So, and I understand today there has to be a space. See, his drug of choice is alcohol. He, and the illusion of control thereof, is my drug of choice. So I needed some space. And early sobriety, it was tough. It was tough for both of us. So she put me to work working the steps. And I don't mind telling you, I flew through 1 through 4. I mean, how hard could it possibly be? There's only 12, and I am smarter than the average human being, of course. My character defect of knowing best, it's tempered. It's tempered. I like what Jim Williams, longtime sober member of AA, says. He's gone, but gosh, I wore his cassette out early on. His sponsor told him, as long as you think you know, you'll never know. But when you begin to know that you do not know, then you'll know. Took me a while to figure all this stuff out, but I understand today I don't know what's best for anybody else. I don't even know what's best for me. So I did 1 through 4, and I was going to skip 5. That's the one. I don't know if everybody comes in with one that they're not going to do, but I was never telling this fairy princess sponsor of mine everything about me. Wasn't going to happen. Wasn't going to happen. So I just kept putting it off. She'd say, how's that 4-step coming along? Good, good. I'm making really good progress on it. You know, might be another week. She'd say, are you done with that 4-step? No, ma'am, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it. She'd ask me again, and what happened, I made the mistake of telling her the truth. I said, I think I'm stuck. And she said, well, I think maybe you need to process. Oh, I'd not heard that word. I said, yes, I think maybe I do. And she said, well, come over for lunch on Saturday and we'll process. This woman was very cunning. And so I went over, we're having lunch, the phone rang, and I hear her tell another Alan, now I'm going to have the ringer turned off on the phone this afternoon because I'm going to be taking a 5th step. And I went, wonder who's coming over to do a 5th step after I get done processing. She tricked me. She did. A woman that I had known 3 months risked our relationship. She loved me enough as a heart sister, a fellow limper on this path, to risk our relationship because she knew that if I didn't do this work, as superficial and early as it was, that I might not survive recovery. The disease could jerk me up and take me out of here just like that. And she was right. Relapse happened about a month after that. And I had a hard time staying, even though I had done the first 5 steps. Very superficial. So it was really hard during that time, the relapse. I didn't know it, but you know, one indication, you had told me, I went to open AA meetings. I mean, I went to 9 meetings a week, including open AA speaker meetings. And I had heard you talk about the disease progressing even though the drinking wasn't active. And that became very clear when he relapsed. And I was having a hard time getting to meetings. And my sponsor suggested that perhaps I needed to come to her house for a week. And she was right. I had enough trust in good orderly direction that that's what I did. Now I want to 5th step you to let you know that I had done such a good job on my 1st step that I was giving this alcoholic the name of an AA sponsor I had picked out for him. Some of the some. Well, his sponsor had a lake house, and he didn't even have a phone at the lake house. And I knew you had to be able to get a hold of your sponsor 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I had conveniently been giving him the name and number of my sponsor's husband. I'm sure there was a ulterior motive of information exchange. You know, that need to know. Need to know is a need to control. However, I had been given him this number, and then I would immediately ask Ray, has he called? Has he called? No, I hadn't heard from him. I'm sure Ray was like, oh, God. Anyway, as I was leaving my house, I was standing down in the basement beside my car, and I thought, he is at that bottom I've heard him talking about. They've talked about this. I know that's where he is. I'm going to give him that number one more time, and he'll make the call this time. You know, this time it'll be different, doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting different results. So I handed him Ray's number on a sticky note. I took one step and got in my car and pulled out of that garage. And on the way, their house was about 20 minutes from mine. On the way over, I was raging. Oh, my God, I was so mad. I was like, look at all I'm doing. Look at everything I'm doing. I'm going to 9 meetings a week, and he's drinking again. You know, this is the Al-Anon salute. You know, I thought martyrdom was one I didn't have. Managing, manipulating, meddling, martyring, mothering, the 5 M's. I had martyrdom galore, okay? It was all about me, you know. You heard a lot about selfishness and self-centeredness from Charlie last night. And the alcoholics don't corner the market on that. It was all about me. He drank at me. About halfway over to my sponsor's house, I looked down, and that yellow sticky note was on the bottom of my shoe. And that is when I made the transfer from my head to my heart. It's a heart program. It's not a head program. And I knew when I peeled that off the bottom of my shoe that she's right. I'm not qualified to help him. I am not qualified to help him. I am powerless over that alcoholic and his alcoholism. I knew it in my heart. And up until then, I'd been holding a magnifying glass. He was like a bug under a magnifying glass. I knew what he was doing. I could tell you where he was in the house. That's it. And I put that magnifying glass down, and I picked up a mirror right then. And I got real serious about paying some attention to Robin. Okay? So that was the transfer on the first step. I want to tell you a little bit about the transfer on the third step. I came home after being at her house at a week. Turned out I didn't know it, but David told me later he was in a 5-day blackout. And he missed work for the first time ever due to his alcoholism. And I was really grateful that I had left. I came home, and there was not a lot of communication, okay? Because my sponsor, she always said, it's like your lives are like railroad tracks, Robin. You have a track, he has a track. They run side by side, but they don't ever cross. You mind your own business. And his recovery, how many meetings he goes to, his sponsor, that is not your business. You are not qualified to help him. So I started minding my own business in a big way. And I came home. I'm not sure how long it had been, honestly. But my disease talked to me. And you've heard a little bit about that from behind the podium. Kent talked about it, as did Astrid. And my disease talked to me. And I came in, pulled in the garage. David was down there. I was halfway up the steps looking down at him. I have no idea what we were talking about, but my disease said, he's been drinking. And then it said, it's in the birdseed. Oh, and so my sponsor had said, she said, before you act out your illness, you pick up that phone and you call me. I was pretty sure searching the birdseed was acting out of my illness. Because she'd said, when you're down there searching a duffel bag, a golf bag, anything in that basement, you have lost your mental and emotional sobriety. You're having a slip. So I went upstairs, I picked up the phone, I went in the walk-in closet and closed the door. That's where I always talk to my sponsor. And I explained it to her. I said, I've come home, you know, I partied so much with him, I can tell. I could take one look at him and he's drinking and it's in the birdseed. I need to go look. And she said, Robin, your higher power's going to let you know what you need to know when it's time for you to know it. See what you need to see when it's time for you to see it. And hear what you need to hear when it's time for you to hear it. See you at the meeting tonight. Click. I knew better than to call her back when she was in that frame of mind, okay? That is nothing but black belt Al-Anon right there. I saw her at the meeting that night. I'm sure I mentioned it again. Explained it to her one more time. This was Thursday. I don't know how many times I explained it to her in the next couple of days. I don't know how many times she said, Robin, your higher power is going to let you know what you need to know when it's time for you to know it. See what you need to see when it's time for you to see it. Hear what you need to hear when it's time for you to hear it. On weekends, David worked as a starter at a golf course. For the guys that play golf, girls, anybody that plays golf, you get out there at dark o'clock and you keep them doing whatever it is they do in an orderly fashion. He called me and woke me up that Saturday morning early. And he said, will you do me a favor? I was not happy about being awakened at that early hour. And I said, what? And he said, will you feed the birds for me today? I said, sure. And he proceeded to send me right down to that trash can I'd been dying to search for 3 days. Now, I need to let you know, I dug a little bit deeper than I needed to be sure there was no contraband in there. There was nothing there. And that is when I made the transfer on the third step. That's when I knew here, in my heart, not my head, but here, that God's plan and God's timing were perfect. And He was going to give me everything I needed. You know, 3 answers to prayer. Yes, no, wait. I'd rather have a flat out no than wait. It doesn't even sound good. Wait. I don't practice delayed gratification very well. To this day. You know, I had a sponsor, Dot Massey, Southern Belle from Burlington, North Carolina. She'd say, Robin, honey, sometimes you just have to sit still and hurt. Ooh, wait. There was nothing in there. Absolutely nothing in there. Once again, put down that magnifying glass and pick up that mirror. I want to talk about the last time David came home to our house drunk. December 22nd of 1993. I had cooked dinner. I don't know how that happened. We hadn't had a meal together in months because he was still active on some level. But I was holding a mirror, not a magnifying glass. So I didn't know. I cooked dinner. I had the table set. We were ready to eat when he walked in drunk. Okay? We sat down. We had a meal together. I have no idea what we talked about, but I can tell you what we did not talk about. That was the fact that he'd been drinking. In the past, my mouth's hooked to the doorknob. You've been drinking. I have not. I've not been drinking. Dave, come on. I drank with you for years. You know, I can tell. Boom, I'd be down those steps. I'd be finding whatever it was, wherever it was, trying to make him tell the truth over and over and over. Those were our tapes. Our tapes. Same thing over and over. I was doing something different. I had learned to pray, God, please let me know when to speak up and when to shut up. If it's time to speak up, please let it be your words. I was doing the dishes. He's sitting at the table with this deer in the headlights look because this woman's different. Something's different here. It's a little disconcerting, you know. And I turned around and I said to him, I need to let you know that I'm uncomfortable with the way you are. And that's all that came out of my mouth. He immediately started his part of the old tapes. Well, I've not been drinking. I said, stop, please. I'm not going to discuss it with you. I just need to let you know how I felt about it. And I finished the dishes and I went and sat down in the living room because I had a meeting. Now, the rat was in the cage. Whew. But I was different. In about 30 minutes, he came in, he sat down beside me on the sofa, and he did the thing that I'd been trying to make him do for years. He sat down and he said, I drank today. I've hurt you. And I'm sorry. And what happened for me was that I looked in his eyes, and for the first time ever, I saw how badly his drinking hurt him. It had always been about me. Look what he's doing to me. And I knew, I don't know anything about the pain of alcoholism. And I told him, David, I love you, but I can't help you. You know where your help is. And I left and went to my meeting. 2 years later, I went to that same AA speaker meeting I'd been going to from the very beginning. And guess who the speaker was? I didn't even know it. It was David Vernon. I'll never forget what he said. He gave his sobriety date, November 22nd of 1993. And he said, when I came home drunk that night and my wife didn't go crazy like she always had, I didn't have anything else to look at but me. And I did not like what I saw. So the minute I stopped trying to tell him, make him tell the truth, he comes right in and tells the truth. The minute I really get out of God's way and stop playing God, let go of that God-like attitude, that knowing best, God spanked him. God spanked him. I had nothing to do with it. The biggest difference between me and God, he never thinks he's me. He doesn't get confused about that. I still get a little confused about it sometimes. David and I divorced in 1999. We remained best friends. We did it in recovery. We treated one another like we wanted to be treated, and we talked to one another like we wanted to be talked to. But we would still see one another frequently. He was my best friend, my soulmate, and I knew that I could call him for anything. In 2009, he called me from another treatment center. He was about a month short of 16 years. And that's when I began to learn about pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. He had ended up in the detox center that he'd been taking a meeting to every Tuesday for 14 years as a patient. I learned really how baffling, cunning, powerful, and patient this disease is. During that first relapse, 4 months in, when I asked my sponsor, what do I do? She said, Robin, you treat that man like an honored guest in your home. And I couldn't believe she said that. I knew what to do this time. I treated him like an honored guest. There were weeks when I had to love him from a distance. We would talk frequently, but when I didn't hear from him, I knew what he was doing. I loved him from a distance. My disease was screaming at me. It'd be okay for you to go by his house. It would be okay for you to call him. But it wasn't, because I'm not qualified to help him. I'm not qualified to help him. Every time I talked to him, I said, David, you're a good man, and you deserve the very best that God has to offer. I love you. September of 2011, he came by my house, and he had been ravaged by the disease. I had not seen him in some time. And he said, Robin, I don't think I'm going to live through another relapse. I said, Dave, you're a good man, and you deserve the very best that God has to offer. I don't want you to die. I love you. And it was a month later that a dual member in my home group called to let me know that David had died from the effects of terminal alcoholism. My greatest regret in my disease was the dignity that I took from a fine man. And it is by the grace of Al-Anon and Alcoholics Anonymous, I took no more dignity from that man during the last 2 years of his life. That is a miracle that I will always be grateful for. I want to tell you a little bit about today. Today, I still go to Al-Anon. You know, people will ask, why you still go? Because I'm not okay if I don't go. I'm not sure I'm ever going to be well. I love it when somebody says, well, I've been here long, if I'm well, and I'm going, ooh, danger, danger. Back up a step. That won't be me, folks. I'm better, though. I'm better. And I have this design for living that you all have freely gifted us Al-Anons that has made miracles in my life. Miracles in my life. I am so grateful for that. It's just like a tribe, And I belong to your tribe just like you belong to my tribe. It's the same. It's the same. One word different in our step. We carry the message to everybody else that y'all don't, okay? Others. Right quick, I want to tell you, it's probably been 2 years ago now. Sunday, I got up Sunday, it was a Sunday, and my main sewer pipe was leaking. And I was like, oh my God, it's not something you can let go to Monday. And plumbers, they're not cheap during a week. But I called, and the guy came out, and he came, he looked, he went away, he got parts, he came, he fixed it. He said, let me check your whatever that thing is, septic tank, while I'm here. And I'm like, oh my God, he's going to milk me for everything I've got. But I said, sure, no problem. He checked it. I have a pumping station because the land doesn't perk well, all that stuff. Anyway, everything looked good. And when we were done, I said, okay, thank you so much for coming today. What do I owe you? And he said, you were David's Robin, aren't you? I said, yeah, I was married to David Vernon. He said, he saved my cousin's life. He's still sober today. There'll be no charge. That's a miracle. It's not a big deal. I could have paid the bill, but that's when I talk about this tribe. Y'all are my family of choice, and I'm so grateful to be amongst you. The way I look at my life today is my worst day today is 300% better than my best day was pre-Al-Anon, and that tells me I'm right where I need to be with you all, and I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Please support the channel by liking and subscribing.